former NFL linebacker is back disrespecting Lamar Jackson. And yet again, he is wrong. We talk about what he had to say and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. And thank you out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Happy game day, of course. This is a 5-day week plus more daily Ravens podcast, so we have you covered Monday through Friday as our regularly scheduled programming. Plus, during game days like today, we will do Locked On Ravens Watch Along. So that'll be tonight, where we react live to every single play. We also have instant reaction shows after the Watch Alongs. We have Locked On Ravens Squad show twice per week, including after the instant reactions with myself, Sam and Joker, and former Ravens receiver Kaiser Ismail. So much daily Ravens coverage here. We had a couple of bonus episodes over the weekend too. So if you haven't checked those out, highly recommend you do that. We have a jam-packed episode here today. First part of the show, former NFL linebacker, he disrespected Lamar Jackson. Again, he's a familiar face. We'll talk about that and just the narratives surrounding Lamar Jackson, especially heading into this game against the Lions here tonight. Then the second part of the show, we'll dive into a Lions wide receiver giving the ultimate respect to the Baltimore Ravens, something a receiver did not do on the Cleveland Browns last week. Very night and day there. Then in the final part of the show, I'll give my final thoughts on the matchup tonight. And if you're watching this after the game or maybe a day or two after, maybe a week after, who knows, you can tell me how right or wrong my predictions were for this contest. And also want to tell everybody today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. Let's dive into it. Former NFL linebacker disrespecting Lamar Jackson. And this, again, plays into the narrative that we have seen for Lamar Jackson, and especially even in the early part of this season, and even heading into tonight's game. Emmanuel Acho, he is back. He is no longer a part of Speak on Fox. That show got canceled, but he is now on a different program. It's called Speakeasy, and he was doing what he does and talking about Lamar Jackson. And obviously we know that he has had some things to say about Lamar Jackson in the past. But this is a little bit interesting because there's been a lot of conversation about Lamar Jackson and just how good he's been recently, right? Oh, he's playing like the best quarterback in football. We've had that conversation here. A lot of people are having it. Well, Emmanuel Acho does not agree with that. And he says that Josh Allen is playing quarterback the best right now. He said, the quote, Josh Allen is playing QB on a different level than every QB in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, he's an absolute dude, but he's playing with two Hall of Famers in DeAndre Hopkins, who's had a resurgence, and Derrick Henry. This, to me, just continues to play into a narrative that's very overblown and tired about Lamar Jackson. This is interesting in a couple of different ways. One is, if I remember correctly, when the Ravens signed DeAndre Hopkins, everyone, not me, but a lot of people in the national media, and I'm sure, Ravens fans were on the DeAndre Hopkins train, at least most Ravens fans, everyone was calling DeAndre Hopkins washed. Everyone. Like, you turned on a TV, turn on the radio. Oh, the Ravens signed DeAndre Hopkins. He's not that guy anymore. He's not good anymore. And I was on this show saying, look, DeAndre Hopkins might not be prime Texans D-Hop anymore, but he can still make an impact. And now that Lamar's having success with him, it's, oh, well, DeAndre Hopkins is a Hall of Famer now. Oh, DeAndre Hopkins is really good. Oh, that's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous, the switch up that people are having about DeAndre Hopkins. So look, DeAndre Hopkins, absolutely, in my opinion, he should be in that conversation for a Hall of Famer, no doubt, right? That's not the point here. But it's like Lamar Jackson gets punished for the people on his roster. Meanwhile, James Cook is like the best running back in football, not named Jonathan Taylor right now. And nobody's talking about James Cook. Nobody's talking about Keon Coleman. Nobody's talking about Dalton Kincaid, who's had a good start to the season, right? It's always about tearing down Lamar Jackson. It is what it is. And again, this has nothing to do with Josh individually or specifically, right? I've said multiple times on this show, I really like Josh Allen. I love watching Josh Allen play. I have a ton of respect for Josh, right? It's not about him at this moment. It's just about like, and even again, going into this game tonight against Detroit, DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, on the season, he the quote unquote resurgence that DeAndre Hopkins has had, and he's been great in spots for the Ravens, right? I don't want to discredit what D Hop has done. He's been absolutely incredible in the moments he's delivered. But you think the way that Acho's talking about him here, that DeAndre Hopkins had like 20 catches for 200 yards in his first 2 games as a Raven. He has 2 catches in both games, right? Now, again, he scored a touchdown in each game. He's had spectacular catches. He's done his thing. But the switch up to like, oh, wait, Lamar's actually doing well with D-Hop. D-Hop's playing well with Lamar. Now we have to switch the narrative. And yeah, Lamar's playing with a really talented roster. That's great. That shouldn't be discrediting to him. Like if he goes out here against the Lions tonight, let's just talk about this right now. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And, he goes out and balls. DeAndre Hopkins has a really nice game again. Derrick Henry has a nice game. That's great. Lamar Jackson is the ultimate elevator, a lot like Josh Allen is, a lot like Patrick Mahomes has shown, Joe Burrow, like these top quarterbacks. This to me is just, it's very much like agenda pushing in my opinion. Like I just, you go to the Ravens, you play with Lamar, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, nope, all the bad stuff we said about you, that doesn't matter anymore because we have to build up a case about Lamar Jackson, right? And if you remember, Derrick Henry came to Baltimore last year. What everybody say about Derrick Henry? He was washed. Everybody was saying it. Again, I was not saying that, and I'm sure a lot of Ravens fans were not as well. But that was the whole narrative is, oh, D-Hop's coming in, he's washed. Derrick Henry's coming in, he's washed. And now you're in a situation where last year Derrick Henry has the best year of his career, and that is used against Lamar Jackson. And you don't hear a lot about the other supporting casts around the league. You barely even hear about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in Cincinnati right now. And again, I don't think anybody should be punished for that. Like, hey, Jared Goff, who the Ravens are playing tonight, has an incredible supporting cast. That's great for Jared Goff. It's great Lamar Jackson has a great supporting cast around him. That should not be used as an argument to tear down these guys. And I don't understand the reasoning behind it. And it's just, it's ridiculous. Like, and I saw people comparing it in comments on social media, like saying LeBron was playing with Hall of Fame Shaq in 2009, like when Shaq was on the downswing of his career, still making some level of an impact. But again, all of a sudden again, and what would happen if DeAndre wasn't having, he didn't have this highlight spectacular catches and, he didn't have the great year to start. It would have been some other thing. But Lamar Jackson, he is the ultimate elevator here. He is. To me, he is the best elevator in the entire league. But it's just the switch up that happens is so ridiculous, in my opinion. And it's something I want to talk about before we get into, obviously, our game preview. We're going to dive into all of that coming up in the second and third parts of the show for the Lions game tonight. But it's like Lamar's in a lose-lose situation every time he plays to these people. And it's just like there's no getting through, where we can't just appreciate the greatness. It always has to be, well, some person in someone's mind who maybe has something against Lamar or doesn't like Lamar as much as another guy. It's always about tearing him down. Let's watch Lamar go out there and ball out tonight. Hopefully, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he does, let's build up Lamar Jackson, right? That's what I just want to continue to keep saying here on this show, because we can even talk about how Lamar has played. The whole notion, I haven't even touched on it really yet here. The whole notion of Acho saying that Josh Allen is playing quarterback essentially better than anybody right now was his message. He's playing on a different level. We look at Lamar Jackson in his last 20 games. I've read this stat off a ton of times over the last week. Jordan Schultz put this out. He has 4,927 passing yards, 1,033 rushing yards, 57 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 125.1 passer rating. If you just want to compare it to Josh Allen, just for the sake of comparing it, in Josh Allen's last 20 games, 4,529 passing yards, 32 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 101.9 passer rating. It also is just a straight up factually false take. Like it just is. You lay out the facts. You can even put on the tape. And that's not, again, it's not me trying to discredit Josh and saying Josh isn't playing at a high level. He absolutely is. Josh is playing at an incredible level. He's an unbelievable quarterback. But it's just like pitting these two guys against each other. It's been that way now for the better part of this is going on year 3 now, because the MVP race in 2023, 2024 obviously got super toxic, and now 2025 is kind of the same thing. And you can tell the level of respect that Josh has for Lamar and Lamar has for Josh, and just across the league, the level of respect the quarterbacks. We talked about it on our bonus episode on Saturday, how much respect Jared Goff has for Lamar Jackson and Lamar has for these quarterbacks. Like, it's just stuff that's being built up. And I will come on here and combat those points because I don't think that they should go unchecked. I think it's important to talk about those, give the other viewpoint, the other perspective, because if they go unchecked, then that's the viewpoint. Like that's what it is. And that's what, that's the point that's out there. I want to give my perspective on it. And I just feel like at this point, it's gone on for so long. And look, at the end of the day, they don't really care what's going on with that inside the Ravens facility, right? They're going to do their thing regardless. Lamar doesn't care about it. He's going to go play at a high level. And the thing that he can do to shut everybody up that's talking bad about him or trying to discredit him, he wins the Super Bowl. And even then, people try to still discredit him. But Lamar's dealt with this for his entire career. He's no stranger to it, unfortunately. Doesn't make it right. But it's things like this where it's just a factually incorrect take and it's the narratives being switched up. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy to me, even when I've been used to it now, and we've all been used to it here who watch Lamar Jackson. It's been going on for a while. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll move on and talk about Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown praising the Baltimore Ravens secondary. Again, something a Browns receiver did not do last week. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing PrizePicks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly my favorite way to follow along with football. I love checking projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 passing yards, or Saquon Barkley more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. And this week's max discounts include Patrick Mahomes' 0.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Moving along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, talking Ravens football on this game day edition of the show. Appreciate everybody again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Again, we're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens podcast. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for that 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens content. Same show, both audio and video. And be sure again to check out the watch along tonight. We'll be reacting live to the Ravens and Lions week 3 game. After that, we'll have the instant reaction show. Then after that, we'll have the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. Now, let's get into a little bit here of what Amon-Ra St. Brown had to say about the Ravens secondary, because again, it was a very different tune than what we heard Jerry Jeudy say last week about the Ravens secondary. And maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown learned a thing or two from what Jerry Jeudy had to say. No, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown's very respectful. He's a good guy. He's an awesome player too, by the way. But he was asked about what challenges the Ravens secondary presents. I felt like I was deja vu. I'm like, oh, I've heard this question before. But Amon-Ra ended up talking about how the Ravens have a lot of good players, not just in the secondary and the defense, right? He really talked about the defense as a whole. Said, quote, they got a lot of good players. Kyle Hamilton's a beast. Marlon Humphrey, Roquan in the middle. They've got a lot of dogs on defense. They're fast. They play hard. We're going to have to be on our P's and Q's with our adjustments. It's going to be loud, so it might not be able to hear. So our signals, whatever it is, got to be on the same page. And that's also, first of all, if you're going to the game tonight, first of all, have a lot of fun. It's going to be an electric atmosphere, but you got to be loud. You got to pump up the Ravens. Got to try to mess with the Lions on the offensive side of the ball, like Amon-Ra said. And again, they have silent counts and they have measures for it. But the Ravens fan base, I'll tell you, this fan base is the best in the world at home field advantage, in my opinion. And that's not even me putting the purple glasses on. There are a lot of fans that do it well, but the Ravens, there is a clear home field advantage in Baltimore. And I love that because the fans get into it. This fan base gets into it, and I absolutely love that. So show up, be loud, support the team, and have a lot of fun if you're going to the game tonight. If not, hey, have fun either watching along with us or maybe you're going somewhere to watch the game. Support from there. It's a really cool fan base that the Ravens have going on. I absolutely love it. Now, Amon-Ra was asked about just Roquan and Kyle Hamilton, their ability to cover the middle of the field. That's an area of the field the Lions like to really attack a lot. And he was asked, how do you counter that type of thing? How do you counter those guys? And Amon-Ra said every play is different. They might blitz one play, might drop one play, maybe 8 they'll drop. And he said in our run game, if we get that going, we're pretty good when we get the run game going. Now, Detroit's run game to start the season, just to pull up where they are right now through 2 games, they are 18th in the league. This was before week 3's action that's already happened. This is obviously the last game of the week. They were 18th in the league in rushing offense at 4.3 yards per carry. Obviously, they have a really good 2-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Gibbs on the season, 21 carries for 113 yards. That's 5.4 yards per carry. David Montgomery, 22 carries for 82 yards. That is 3.7 yards per carry. So those are 2 guys who absolutely have to stop. Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely electric out of the backfield, both as a runner and obviously he can do a little bit of damage as a receiver as well. He already has 13 catches on the season through 2 games, so they love to use him out of the backfield that way. He's not really taking a lot of long passes or doing anything after the catch right now. He's only averaging 3.2 yards per catch. But if you stop the run game, if you're Baltimore, like Amon-Ra saying, if the Lions get the run game going, that's a really big part, and that's how their offense kind of clicks. If you can stop that, if you're the Ravens defense, as I always say when they play any team, it just eliminates a part of their offense that is going to cause you trouble if you can't stop it, because you are second guessing yourself. You have to bite up a little bit on play fakes, and it just throws everything off. But if you can genuinely stop it, or at least limit it, it will allow pass rushers to pin their ears back. And we'll certainly talk about the Ravens injury situation with their pass rush in the final part of the show for tonight. But it's such a big key, not just for this Lions game, but I've been talking about it for years on this show. You make an offense one-dimensional, and it makes your life so much easier as a defense. And again, the Lions aren't necessarily blowing the doors off here in the run department. It's honestly been their passing offense. They're the 6th best pass offense in the league. But we have to remember, much like the Ravens in a different way, the Lions have been a tale of 2 teams over the first 2 weeks of the season. They got blown out by the Packers in week 1. It was a bad game for them. Then they come back against the Bears in week 2, and they just blow the doors off the Bears. It was an unbelievable beatdown, 50-plus points. Now, the Lions are probably somewhere in the middle of that team. I don't think they're going to put up 50-plus on this Ravens defense. But they're also not that team that lost to the Packers in week number 1. So you have to stop guys like Amon-Ra. You can't let anything over the top like with Jameson Williams. I'm sure they're going to try to utilize him that way. Isaac Tesla is going to probably try to come down with a spectacular catch or 2. He and DeAndre Hopkins are going to have a spectacular catch-off, it feels like. So in my opinion, stopping the run is an absolute key for this game. And it's telling that, Amon-Ra is talking about, hey, that's a big key for us, is getting the run game going. So now you know that you have to stop that if you're the Ravens right now. Now, Amon-Ra was also asked about if they're confident in winning a shootout, if that's what the game dictates. And obviously Amon-Ra said, yes, 100%. We're all super confident in our offense being able to put up points in any way, whether that's through the air or on the ground. And again, this is respectable stuff. This is the mindset that you should have, right? And this is the mindset the Ravens have too. They're confident in themselves. If you go into a game, and this is kind of where the disconnect was last week with Jerry Jeudy, when in his comments versus Amon-Ra St. Brown in his comments this week. The disconnect with Jerry Jeudy is that was he was getting a little bit egregious with what he was saying, where it's just no challenges. And then he comes back, this week and was like, oh, well, you watch the film? Oh, no, come back to me. There's a way to be confident but respectful with that confidence. And I think that's what Amon-Ra is doing here, where, hey, gives the Ravens their flowers, but says, you know what, we're confident as a team in going out there and taking care of business if we're able to execute on everything we need to execute on. That's the right way to approach it. I think it shows a really high level of respect for your opponent. In this case, it's the Ravens for Amon-Ra. And you're also sending a message to your team that's like, hey, you know what? This is a really good football team, but we're also a really good football team. And that to me is the right way to approach it. Plus, we know that Amon-Ra, he had a massive game against the Bears in week number 2. On the year, and a lot of this did come in that game against Chicago last week. He has 13 catches for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns on the season. That game, he was balling out. He's one of Jared Goff's security blankets, but it's not just him. I mentioned Jameson Williams, Tesla, but Sam Laporta also has had kind of a slow start to the season-ish, only 9 catches for 105 yards through 2 games. they're going to utilize a lot of these guys in a lot of different ways. And that's not even, we haven't even talked about the Ravens offense versus the Lions defense yet, because this was more focused on Amon-Ra's comments and giving the Ravens secondary their flowers. But of course, we know that the Ravens defense is going to look a little different in week number 3. There's going to be no Nnamdi Madubuike. We talked about that injury update on our bonus episode yesterday. Kind of a scary one, if we're being honest. And obviously, Kyle Van Noy not going to play in this one as well. So the Ravens pass rush and secondary have to continue to work hand in hand with one another and honestly be better at doing that, where Nnamdi Madubuike was your best pass rusher and it wasn't really close, right? Where there were a couple of stats we read out yesterday. I'll find them again and I'll read them out here. But at this point, the NFL leaders in pass rush and pass rush pressure rate, among defensive tackles and a minimum of 60 snaps. So far, Nnamdi Madubuike led the NFL through 2 weeks in that with 20.3%. So that is a big loss for the Ravens. We know that. Ken McCusick, a film study, we've had him on through 2 games, excluding Niels and Spikes. The Ravens defense first to run with Madubuike on the field, 3.7 yards per play. That Madubuike on the field, 5.8 yards per play. First to pass with Madubuike, 6.6 yards per play. Without Madubuike on the field, 6.2. But with those numbers, they are very vulnerable versus the pass without Madubuike, regardless. So Aeneas Peebles going to have to step up in a big way. We know that. And Madubuike with his 2 sacks on the season. Jonas Schaefer, the Baltimore Banner, puts it into a little more perspective. Madubuike has 10 pressures and 2 sacks this season. The rest of the Ravens defensive line, 7 pressures and no sacks combined. So that secondary, if the pass rush isn't getting pressure, well, I mean, it's going to be tough to be able to cover for 4, 5, 6 seconds. And then Lions can pick you apart, especially if that run game gets going. So Ravens have guys on defense. Amon-Ra says that is 100% correct, but they have to be able to work together. That's a really, really big key to this game. Coming up in the final part of the show, continue talking about that. I'll give my final thoughts on this game. We'll talk about the Ravens offense a little bit as well versus Lions defense and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Tez Walker in week number 2 for the Ravens. He scored 2 touchdowns, and he has 3 career catches for 3 career touchdowns. He's 3 for 3, and those 2 touchdowns were huge moments in the game for the Ravens in week 2. Hopefully you can carry that momentum over to the Ravens Monday night game against the Detroit Lions, but he was going for it no matter what. He was in the end zone. He was making a play for his team, and that outlook for Tez Walker, he's a second-year player. He's playing behind some guys on the depth chart, but he has a positive outlook, it feels like, and that, to me, is really important when it comes to moving forward and establishing yourself as an NFL player. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And this show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits wherever you like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. Now, for the Ravens and Lions game tonight, Monday Night Football, the spread has been holding strong. Ravens 5.5-point home favorites in this game, and I like that number for the Ravens. I think that while this will be a closer game than we saw the Ravens play in week 2 against the Browns, I think the Lions are that good of a team. The Ravens roster, the motivation level to get to 2-1 and get momentum, I think it's all there for Baltimore right now. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Continuing on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher is still here with you on this game night Monday edition of the show. A lot of interesting things for this Lions and Ravens matchup. We'll continue to dive into that in the final part of the show here. But of course, be sure you hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and tell a friend, tell a family member we're here for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens if they want some daily Ravens coverage, which we do provide 5 days a week plus more, of course. And be sure to follow me on social media at ChaosStriker34 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. And again, I'm going to keep plugging it. Be sure you tune into the watch along tonight. Here we'll be reacting live to every play of the Ravens and Lions week 3 matchup. Then we'll have the instant reaction show. Then we'll have the Locked on Ravens squad show. So we have like 6 hours of content for you every single game day or game night as this is. So I love it. And this team hopefully can move to 2-1 with a big win over the Lions. 2-1 is a lot better than 1-2. So hopefully they do that. But let's dive into more storylines for this game. We kind of ended the second segment talking about Nnamdi Madubuike's absence and Calvin Noy's absence, how that's going to impact the pass rush, and a pass rush that has been lacking at points even with Madubuike and Van Noy in there. So that is, you got to have guys. I mentioned the Aeneas People step up, Mike Green step up, but those two not the only ones that are ruled out for this game. Patrick Ricard, he is not playing again with his calf injury. He has not played this season, and the Ravens certainly do miss him on the offensive side of the ball. And then Isaiah Likely, who was limited all week, he is not playing either. He was ruled out. So I think the assumption is he'll probably be back for week 4. Not a guarantee, obviously, but his loss still, he has not played either. It's a big one, and he provides a lot of versatility, which the Ravens have missed. Now, you also have guys for the Ravens that are not even listed on the injury report right now. Rasheen Ali, he's good to go. Marlon Humphrey not listed. John Jenkins not listed. Nate Wiggins not listed. Jair Alexander wasn't even on the report at all this week, so maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. John Harbaugh was kind of a bit non-committal, but said that he would be playing essentially sooner rather than later. For the Lions, Marcus Davenport's going to be out, and they have a little issue in their edge department, their D-line department right now, where they're a little thin, and Aiden Hutchinson's still working his way back from his gruesome injury he suffered last year. He's been playing, but it's difficult to kind of get back into shape and right off the bat from that type of injury. So we will see how he looks. But for the Lions, Jack Campbell, their linebacker, Taylor Decker, tackle, you have DJ Reed, as well as Kirby Joseph. All of those guys are questionable for this game. So those would be big losses if none of those guys could play. I'm sure the extra day of rest helped, but I'm not sure their status right now. I mean, you have a lot of other matchups you can watch here. Terrion Arnold is probably going to be matched up on Zay Flowers. Maybe it is DJ Reed, but we know that Zay Flowers, this article here, Flowers lines up in the slot at a 37.8% rate, wide right at a 36.7% rate, and wide at left at 25.2% rate. He obviously has a dominant target share, 42.2%, which is second among NFL pass catchers. Zay's going to be a huge X factor in this one, right? We've talked about D-Hop, talked about Tez Walker, some of those underrated receivers. I'm hoping for a big game from Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews to get their season started here. But, I think that for Zay, he is going to be the key to unlocking this offense in this game. Now, of course, kind of what I talked about with the Lions offense and them getting their run game going, that's their goal. Well, it's the exact same thing for the Ravens. You get that run game going, and the Lions defenders, especially when it's Lamar Jackson in that backfield and Derrick Henry in that backfield, you have to start respecting that. You always have to respect it, but then you start to creep up a little bit and you can work play action really effectively. This is one of the areas they miss Isaiah Likely in, but hopefully you can get Mark Andrews involved in this, maybe a Bateman, obviously Zay and some others as well. But they just need to get this run game going. Right now, Detroit, their run defense, they are just middling. They're 14th in the league right now. We know Baltimore's rushing offense is dominant. Now, last week they were not against Cleveland, but that Cleveland front, by the way, with the game that they played against the Packers yesterday, I think a lot of people have a newfound respect for what the Ravens did on offense on Sunday last week in week 2. But they should be able to get a little bit more going on the ground, especially with Davenport out and some other question marks on defense. So get that run game going early. I think that's going to be really, really big. Third down conversions also are going to be big for the Ravens here. They haven't been particularly great both on third down or in the red zone this season. It's only 2 games, so it's a pretty small sample size if we're being honest here. But right now they're the 21st best third down percentage team in the league at 39.1%. Red zone percentage-wise, they are 16th in the league at 57.1. So it's like middling-ish, but defensively, they're giving up. They're not good. They're 28th in the league out of 32 teams, obviously. 77.8 conversion percentage in the red zone on third down defensively. They are 19th in the league, 42.4%. So the big thing here is we know how high-powered that Lions offense is. The best way to stop a high-powered offense, get them off the field and don't let them back on the field, right? Force 3 and outs. Don't let them convert on third down. And you as an offense, take that ball, and it can be efficient. It can be long drives, however it is. Just keep the foot on the gas. No crazy fourth quarter blown leads, the whole 9 yards. So again, hopefully this will be a really good game. I think the Ravens will come out on top here. I think it'll be a 7-point game. I'll say the Ravens win by 7. I'll say 30-23 is the final score here. Lions get some points, but the Ravens win it. And yeah, I mean, this is exciting. It's great atmosphere. Lamar Jackson, 24-2 against the NFC as a starter. So hopefully he continues that. The Ravens love the prime time, the Monday night games. So tons of storylines. And again, of course, we'll be back here later tonight, watching along live to everything. And of course, the instant reaction show and the Locked On Ravens squad show after that. So that's all I have for you here today on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in on the way out. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and I'll see you right back here later tonight on Locked On Ravens.